gentlemen, guys, and happy Saturday. Welcome to the PPC Community Broadcast. I'm Fawn, of course, joined here by my man Kresnix, and we'll be going over the EU bracket first and foremost with mixalazeub versus Yoinkers. I expect this match to be pretty good. These are two teams that have fought each other more than once, and they've both proven to be neck and neck every time they've had their fights.
Yeah, I think these teams playing against each other. Though at the start, you can't forget that was, I think, a different look at mixalazeub because I believe, and someone in chat can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was Uber Spady on the team then, but he was just filling in for Stop Banning BK, aka Tired, who now is back with the team. And honestly, and I don't know if this is just specifically him or just the impact that Ubers has on the game, but they honestly haven't been looking as good. Without him, I feel like they've kind of been struggling. I believe at 1 and 3 in the standings, I want to say. We'll find out once I could take a look at those at the very end. But let me actually very quickly correct something. But mixalazeub, a team that was very strong, I think, in the earlier weeks, could potentially improve going on. But Yoinkers kind of shot back up in improvement, I would say, after they picked up Prosper.
Well, I mean, I guess that would be the sort of story for today, right? I mean, showing off the fact that Yoinkers not only has a new player, but showing how they work together as a team. And mixalazeub, it's more of a I guess it's more of a coming to terms with the fact that they have to play better. Whether you want to use the excuse, and not just you specifically, Chris, but if anyone wants to use the excuse of, like this player was part of the reason as to why they were winning most of their games, this would be their time to prove that it wasn't just a singular player that was the sole reason behind a lot of their dubs. I'm sure they can take it by themselves, but we can only see that once we get into the picks and bans today, of course.
Yeah, but before we get in there, I will have to kind of alert everyone to the map bans, which I do have. We have Bazaar banned by mixalazeub and Warder's Gate also banned by them. Response by Yoinkers was Ice Mines and Frog Isle. I feel like these are kind of the normal ones that we're seeing taken out pretty often. At the very least, Bazaar, Warder's Gate tend to be banned, but wait a minute. Okay, there's no way they banned Frog Isle because right here it says that Frog Isle is the map we're going to. So I'll have to really quickly reconfirm that and make sure that's not actually the case. So Fawn, if you can talk, I guess, your thoughts about how Yoinkers have been looking recently while I make absolutely sure I know where we're headed.
Well, I mean, you did bring up the fact that they had a recent roster change with a new player. And so based off of that alone, it's pretty much just going to be the fact that seeing a new player on the roster could sort of shake up the team dynamic. And what I mean by that is that in more ways than one, regardless of whatever esport it is you play, whether it's Paladins or whatever other game it is that you will end up playing after this point, it's all about the team synergy. And new players coming on the teams, regardless of whether they're a veteran or not, can really shake things up either in a good way or a bad way. Sometimes you got to get out all of the rickets and a lot of the other problems that come with having a new player on your team. But so far, I preface all of that by saying that Yoinkers has surprisingly not seemed to be affected by any of those sort of negative downsides that you would have upon taking a new player onto your team, regardless of the experience. So it's great to be able to see them not only rise up to the occasion, but sort of return to form, sort of go back to some of the play styles it is that we've been seeing them do. We've seen in EU and even in Brazil, we've seen a lot of the triple DPS comps nowadays, especially when they have a Genos at their back, part of the sole reason as to why Genos and Corvus have been finding their way to the ban column so frequently, right? So with that being the case, of course you can have more aggressive compositions, and Yoinkers have proven that they've played that quite a bit. We've even seen it in the PCML and the Paladin Central minor league time and time again. So it really depends on what type of composition they want to try and go for today, as well as showing off the fact that they still work together well as a team despite the new roster change.
Yeah, I mean, they've been looking good so far, and I can actually let everyone know why, for some reason, I said Frog Isle twice. So when the member of mixalazeub, because this is their pick, as we headed to see first pick, and you'll see why, they actually reported the name of the map in French. So they said they were playing on Mangrove, but what the map that actually is, which we'll update right now, is Bright Marsh. So Bright Marsh is going to be map 1 by them. If anyone was like, what in the world is that map on the screen right now? They actually reported it in French, so I guess when it was being inputted for me to use, they just put Frog Isle twice. Either way, Bright Marsh will be map number 1 with mixalazeub's pick, potentially looking to target some members of Yoinkers. We'll see if that is what happens, but it looks like we'll stay by the EU standard first ban of Ruckus being taken out first. I think fairly standard there. And Atlas has a response to potentially be aggressive If you want to stop that aggression, Yoinkers, that's the best way to do it. But Rom also taken out by Mix, looking at that Michael look from North America, or Speaker Lobster now, I guess, from the PCML, taken out. And the final ban for them, I think I would see them. I don't think they could really target anyone in mixalazeub in particular. I don't know, maybe Leon just to get rid of Nauk, but Nauk is proficient in a lot of different characters. But I guess no off-tanks day. This is no off-tanks day at the stadium. Yep. There is just nobody going to be able to play off-tank this game with Ruckus, Rom, Atlas, and Ash gotten rid of. Interesting to see, I guess, they just don't want any dive, and they don't want anyone to counter dive if they manage to draft it without any of these tanks.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting to get rid of all of those off-tanks, because then that leaves open so many other opportunities, except for
Genos.
Right, exactly. They've left open Corvus, they left open Genos, they left open Vivian. Inara is still in the game, Terminus is still in the game. A lot of these bans that we see typically being brought out in Brazil and in the North American bracket are here to stay in this first off match. So that's a very interesting look to be able to start things off in the draft phase. Inara and Droxus on the side of Yoinkers with Victor Khan, Zen on the side of mixalazeub. And the healers haven't been locked in yet. That's very interesting. Both of these teams, I believe, might even be saving the healers for the very last pick.
What I'm thinking is, with Corvus and Genos open, they're both kind of playing a game of chicken, like, all right, who's going to waste their pick on a healer first? And right. Yoinkers do it, they pick up the Corvus, but this is the right time to do it, because if you leave your healer for last, you're really telegraphing what you want. There's some times where taking that priority pick can be worth it. I don't know if this is one of those metas necessarily, so Yoinkers just pick up that Corvus, and they pick up a Kinessa as well, so... Brightmarsh Kinessa, by the way, just as a reminder, we are on Mangrove, as it was reported by the players on mixalazeub, so you don't get to see this very much, but it can be lethal if they don't really have a way to get in, considering every single aggressive off-tank in the game has been banned. They really don't have a way to get in now. At most, they're going to be kind of leaning into this overpower and hoping that can make it work for them, with Grover actually being taken as well, so not even a Genos for that extra damage boost. They want some more raw healing, potentially to pocket a 2-tank composition, which they do go with. Fernando picked up as their point tank, we would assume, and he'll match up decently into Inara, but there's going to be a lot of damage coming into him. And Yoinkers, they could take a second tank, they have a healer that can do it, or they could go towards that solo tank play with Inara that we know can be effective with Corvus.
And I think that's what's so interesting is the fact that both Grover and Fernando get locked in to try and counteract not only the damage that Kinessa and, of course, Vivian will be able to bring to the table, but also make sure that they lock down that tank, that front-lining presence that they have with Inara. You'll have a situation where you'll have to be able to answer that seismic crash effectively, and they're going to use it a lot to make sure they can benefit the best off of that ultimate. So if you have a way to counter that, try and counteract the dive that they'll be able to deliver at certain points in time off the back of Inara, that's going to be a pretty good look for them. And I like the Grover pick too. Grover's a very, very good healer to pick into Androxus. It's going to be a good look. I like both drafts, honestly, but if I had to pick one personally, I would go for mixalazeub here. I think mixalazeub's draft is better in my personal opinion.
Okay, well, we'll be able to get into game and take a look at how they're going to be playing it into each other right now. Game 1 of mixalazeub versus Yoinkers. I can also look at these. Once I find where my mouse cursor is, that took me a minute, we can take a look at these talents you set up. It's definitely going to tell you right now, it is not going to be Leon's shield, but just what he's hovering on right now. I think they're going to have a very defensive game style coming out from the members of Yoinkers. I don't expect them to get too aggressive, but I will watch Logi on this first mid just because, I mean, he's kind of nuts. We're going to see what he can do playing defensive and stalling out, letting his team slow them down so he can do some good damage.
Right, exactly. We'll have to see, once again, how these guys are going to meet. Once, of course, they have people being sent into apartments, being sent really all over the place.
It is throwing bullets, by the way.
They throw out the suppressor mine, if anything. They're going to find those first opening shots with Kinessa, but the aggression might be a little bit too much. Logi actually has to concede that positioning, as now mixalazeub have taken control over the opposing team's high ground, and he almost spun right off of the side of that. I was really scared too for a second. But he's going to be able to find a lot of damage on the Etsu. No definitive kills except for on the side of Prosper Logic with a double. Good lad with one of them. Make that a triple, and Davazy has to jump off the side already. His team already being taken care of means that he can't really stay there any longer than he would need to. That Fernando shield is getting burnt, so he's definitely going to have to reconsider peeking that angle and just hold on with the rest of his team. But Vivian taking the aggressive approach here, tosses out that landmine, if anything, or the sensor drone, I should say. And they're going to step directly onto it. It's more like a landmine where you have booby trap out there, but Yoinkers have already captured the first point with very little opposition on the side of mixalazeub.
And you can see why pit mids really don't ever get done. You really don't do a mid fight from pit because you just give up so much map control. Prosper is literally in their tree before the round was even over. And look at this. These hit scans on Yoinkers are just destroying them when they try to push into window. Letting them retake this. Only Princess Pekka manages to live, and that's because... Oh, no! The booby trap from Prosper! I picked the worst possible person to spectate. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Fernando goes flying off the map right out of the spawn. Oh, man, and people are still going to be in chat and say, run opportunity in chaos. You know it's coming, but knocked off the map. Perfect pick, I think. You can see this Vivian getting value, even all different means. But Pekka already back up, already ready to recontest this objective as the card moving completely uncontested this whole time with Corvus outputting a fair amount of healing. Khan actually going pretty far forward. I think that he might be a little bit isolated, already taking so much damage from these backlines.
Let's get all the way in the back. Still better off position than anyone else on the side of mixalazeub because no one can really peek her. Every time they actually try and find an advantage to look somewhere, they're going to be taken apart, just like the round is already over. Yoinkers already with a 2-0. First it was the booby trap, then it was the fact that Logi's just pretty much posted up in the back. No one can really contest him. They have a flank, but at the same time, that flank's running into Vivian. That flank is running into other DPS. Yeah. Logi, all he has to do is decide to change targets, and it's making it harder for Zen. How do you think mixalazeub have to adapt in this situation, Krez? Is there anything that stood out to you during that last round?
Yeah, man, don't go pit. I mean, it's just a rough mid to play. I guess that they felt like they had to do it. Send at least one person there, but that's not like, you don't send your tank and 3 players there. They actually ended up pretty protected against Etsu, but the fact is they got to tree and they were already surrounded, like instantly. They had people on every side of them just looking to pounce, and it ended up really not paying off as they do the rollout Prosper with those sentinels up, and actually he looks like he's matching them on this far right side, but he sees them all coming. Kubica might slow them down, but how does he live through all this? I guess just by walking away. Vivian's pretty dang quick.
Yeah, I mean, with those cards, man, I mean, you've got that movement speed available to you, outrunning 4 individual members of mixalazeub. They all grouped up by apartments, but they're the ones that are going to end up getting picked off. First, it was the Fernando, then it was Zen. Now, it seems like Khan's in an even worse off spot. Etsu finds that last hit on a 7 streak right now. That's absolutely wonderful. If you're playing the Androxus, this is the type of performance you want to play, especially if they're the ones aggressing and they're the ones losing on these opening plays. 99%, you had a touch, but no one else can really make it onto point to even contest anything. Yoinkers already in control since the very beginning of this match. Here even is Vivian in the back line. She's so quick, you can't really stop her. It's hard for them to do anything.
Fun, I swear, I really want to spectate the players on mixalazeub. I'm trying so hard, but I keep spectating them and they keep just going down. To Yoinkers, I mean, I'm going to pull up the KDs one more time just to see. No one has died yet on the side of Yoinkers. Just ridiculous play from them. I think their draft excellent for this map. Triple DPS on this map used to not necessarily be standard, but then Fnatic said, oh yeah, well, we like triple DPS, and they perfected it. Yoinkers are kind of carrying that banner forward and making it work continuously. Pekka really caught out. More people isolated. This could be a huge ult.
Here we go. Seismic Crash is what's going to start things off as they find one. Prosper swinging up around the side. They have the overpower. They found one as well. That's going to be the first kill for mixalazeub. That's a well, I can't say that's a very good look for them. That's the best look you can possibly ask for, especially with how aggressive that Yoinkers is playing right now. BK in the back line, but it's not going to work out. Now goes down soon after that. I mean, you get one kill, you say GG easy in chat after you manage to get that one kill based off of how this game has been going, and it seems like it's not going to be going any longer.
Get the immortal.
He's the only one that's on the point. He ended up using the battle shot to give himself some immunity. And that's going to be it. That's all she wrote. 4-0 already for Yoinkers on Bright Marsh.
Yeah, I'm blinking you miss it, honestly, in that game. The only kill that mixalazeub got that entire game was an overpower onto Prosper, and Prosper actually killed the Khan before going off the map. He did that much damage in the sky. I will say, team, definitely making fun of Prosper right now for being the only death. They are absolutely razzing him right now, where... in their team chat, and we can take a look just to confirm that those were the stats in a moment. I will get that up for you. I remembered that I have to make it so Fawn can see it also, so definitely don't want him to be kind of left out in the open guessing at what the stats were as I make that available, so we'll hop and pull those up right now. Looking at this, Prosper, 55k damage, top of his team. The tanks on the side of mixalazeub both really struggling, and K-Kiesel, this Grover, only 3,000 damage behind their Victor. The Grover second damaging above the Zin. Zin definitely struggling, but just couldn't stay in. I think there was so much healing coming out from their team, looking even at the self-healing across the board. Just they kept themselves up. The Corvus outputted quite a bit. Even Grover, who always is constantly healing, still had 10,000 less out there than that Corvus was able to put out.
And that's interesting to even imagine that being the case, because typically we see a lot of these sort of death ball-esque compositions being played around this Grover. People will group up with the Grover all based off of the fact that they have that potential to be able to be healed through walls. They want to be able to stay close enough to Whirlwind so that way it can find its value. But here we are in a situation where Grover is under the Corvus, when Grover can heal way more people than Corvus can in a very short amount of time. So I'm very, very interested to see how that goes. But also the Grover loadout seems a bit strange to me as well.
No. It's pretty standard, I'd say, for these days, with the max radius, damage reduction, reset on crippling axe, about what you'd be looking for. Some people put a little bit more into the reset, specifically the Fatalis, but this one by K-Kiesel leaning more towards the crippling axe cooldown to get those more often. Maybe if you get resets, if you spam them, you might have a higher healing throughput, but without that Chronos, it's going to hurt K-Kiesel having to start Haven, because, I mean, Logi on Kanessa, Etsu, Andro, Prosper on Vivian. It's a tall task to survive without some level of damage reduction to help you out.
Right, but at the same time, I mean, like, that's sort of where my line of thinking was the fact that it seemed a little bit, like, I understand that that's a pretty standard build, especially if you're going deep roots, if you're trying to go the Cripple Axe, if you're trying to put a damper on Etsu's mobility, on the Androxus, and not just his, but of course any Andro. But I felt like playing into a team composition like that, that's going to be really hard without making sure you have that healing cooldown. I feel like that puts a lot of pressure on Grover and the rest of the team to not only be positioning well, which is what they were trying to do, they were trying to have that sort of death ball-y, roll in your face composition. We've seen it try and work out multiple times, but it never really had that impact. They couldn't even catch the Vivian. The Cripple Axe didn't even have have the value that they were looking for it to have.
I mean, the Cripple Axe, for some Grover styles, you're looking to spam it just to get resets on your Blossom. With Grover is getting those Fatalis resets, you're getting value on Grover. You know, once you get more healing, you're just going to be able to keep up with that output that some other healers really can't do, at least on a global scale. You know, even Pip needs to wait that 5-second cooldown out for reload before he's able to get that consistent output from Mega Potion potentially on that side. But map 1 going this way of Yoinkers. It was mixalazeub's pick, so Yoinkers get to win and then pick the map immediately afterwards, and their choice is going to be Jaguar Falls. Okay. So I mean, why wouldn't you, right? If you win that hard on a flat map, you're like, yeah, we'll take you know, flat map 2. We'll gladly end up heading out there. As I bring us into the picks and bans whenever my stream deck works. Thank you. This thing has been fighting back for the last couple of weeks, as some of you might have noticed yesterday.
Just like my drawer as well.
Yeah, your drawer fights you, and my stream deck unmutes me randomly as I lean into the mic and go, standings are ready. And everyone gets to hear that, which is always very, very fun. But Yoinkers' first pick on this map, we'll see if their ban priority changes. But instead, they take the reins for mixalazeub. They ban the Ruckus for them and kind of open the door for whatever Mix want to ban on the flip side.
Yeah, once again, there goes the Ruckus once more. We haven't really seen Ruckus be banned that much in the other regions. We've seen him be banned every now and again, but most people have put that priority onto the ROM. I guess it's just that presence of mind that people want to be able to have, and the fact that, okay, well, they can't get any sort of dive composition, because it's hard to deal with that dive. If you're going to leave open a few targets like Genos and Corvus, it's hard to try and fight back against that sort of dive-esque composition, but they actually get rid of Ashe this time around. Ruckus, Ashe, Atlas, and Droxus. That once again leaves Genos and Corvus open, and I can imagine maybe it might even be a Genos first pick, if anything, or maybe even a Gnar.
I mean, Inara is still good. I mentioned yesterday I had the kind of line of thinking about how you can counterplay Inara, but at the end of the day, she's still just better than most of the other tanks. I mean, she's gonna do the sustain on point job better than all of the other point tanks, so might as well pick her if you're not really if you're not picky about what you're getting in the other slots. I will say though, Prosper kind of just dominated last game. I'm shocked they're not looking to ban at least that Vivian. I think Vivian really tough to deal with, especially on this map. You know, this is definitely one of her better maps. Jaguar Falls, able to control that space with Booby Trap and all those different things. But they pick up the Victor instead, who I think is the markedly worse of the two. I'd even put him equal, if not slightly lesser, depending on the space of the map you're trying to control, than Tyra here on Jaguar Falls specifically. The chokes are so close by. Some areas he's great, right? Like on the push, if you can get on that far side, on the mid, if you can play in the middle area. But if their team is playing inside, you really just have your grenade and then hoping they push into you. But it's very easy to flank a Victor on this map.
Yeah. We're just going to have to see how that one plays out here. I mean, I guess they felt like the Victor would be a good pick to be coupled with the Genos. Of course, you have that damage amp. Like, Gore said it a while ago, like on Thursday, like a few days ago, if anything. The fact that Victor does a lot of damage and top damages on accident. He does not do it, like, most of the time.
Like how Grover top heals on accident.
Purpose. Right, exactly. And that's it. But at the same time, that wasn't the case last match. So hopefully they actually figure something out this time around with the Victor pick. They feel confident in it. They don't go for the Vivian. They instead want the Victor to themselves. So Corvus, Vivian on the other side, though. Can't say Yoinkers quite feel the same way.
Yeah, they're definitely not unhappy picking those two up, right? But I think Mix have a good adaptation here. I think having adaptation's not a word. Terminus is great, I think, into the Vivian. Run the Crush. When that shield comes up, you can use Shatterfall and knock the shield down, stun her, and let your team follow up. Eevee also great into it. But this does feel kind of like they're adapting their point tank and they're adapting their flex DPS just to deal with Prosper Vivian, right? You know, they're saying, wow, Vivian really owned us. Instead of spending one band to get rid of it, let's spend two of our picks to deal with it. But they're flexible characters. I mean, Terminus will obviously absorb all other kinds of damage. He will trade fine into Inara, and Eevee, depending on the other picks by Yoinkers, might still be able to have a field day, but I think this can be one of her harder maps if you're against a more aggressive team.
Right, exactly. And I think that's going to be a little bit harder for Vivian to play it too, especially on a lot of these chokes, because of the fact they have that Terminus, but at the same time, they have Terminus. So he's not going to be anywhere other than on point trying to contest Inara, I would feel, unless they want to try and opt to go for strategies we've seen before, where people just want to be as aggro and just see if they can dive into the back line. Just forget the point. We're going to dive right into the back. Just take the fight instead. Kanessa and Maeve, though, last picks on the side of Yoinkers. Very interesting to be able to see this. I mean, you have that backline DPS once again, but you have a flank to try and couple things out here. Almost same composition as last time. And what I mean by that is the fact that they have two backline DPSs and they have one flank coupled by a good healer, like at their back. I can't think of any other way to spend a draft phase than picking most of those characters. So it has to be a good look for them. Honestly, I can't really complain about that one too much. Mixalazeub, though, I do agree, very good adaptation from them. So we'll just have to see how they play this one.
Yeah, I will say, and chat just brought it up, and I do want to make a note of it because it is kind of ridiculous that I didn't mention it. They are playing Kanessa on Jaguar Falls.
They are, yes.
Definitely one of her potentially worst maps, I would say, most of the time. So, interesting to see them trying to pull it out. But it is also, don't forget, it is Logi playing this Kanessa. So, I think scary from that. Always going to be able to get those quick scopes at close range. Logi's so proficient on this character. I think I expect him to perform pretty well. But the Maeve Eevee matchup is also one that we saw a little bit yesterday. Also one that we saw consistently all of last year, all the time. I mean, Maeve and Eevee, super impactful to duel each other. You don't usually see it on Jag. You usually see it on those more vertical maps. But I think having that pickup, interesting for them to have that fight. And if that Maeve wins, then their Eevee is going to be even less pressured.
Yeah, and I think that's what's going to be interesting about this entire phase, if anything. It's going to be very, very interesting to see sort of the fact that Logi is going to be able to pick this Kanessa, and I feel like that's why. I mean, it is known the fact that, okay, it's not the best. We are 100% aware of that. We know that snipers on Jaguar Falls aren't the best. However, if it wasn't Logi piloting it, I would be a little bit more concerned. But I think that is exactly why they locked it in. I think it's literally because of the fact that it's because it's Logi playing the Kanessa, right? I think they're confident enough in his Kanessa to be able to bring this out. It's the same way how I felt when I saw Stigma lock in Ice Mines last year, playing Kanessa once again. I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. So it's just like it's
it
the
works.
same.
Yeah.
With Logi,
if the player's good enough, it'll work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and sorry about that. I had to fix a little something on my end, so I had to restart the game, which is why I was expecting people some random person Johnny274 to pop up in chat and be like, haha, why are they talking? Please, please. I want to see the game, but luckily we can now hop in. Yoinkers versus Mix, map number 2 here on Jaguar Falls. But yeah, I think I expect to be kind of impressed by this Kinessa just by the merit of it being Logi, and he has been consistently impressing. But it's a map where if they play tight enough on the side of Mix, if they just kind of run it down, they can make it work. They can just get on top of Logi, pressure him out, force that port, and then fight somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think that's what's important is the fact that if they can make him as uncomfortable as possible with the EV, then I think that's what the story is here. Do we feel like EV can get enough space to where she can make it to the backline comfortably, make Logi uncomfortable, and see if they can even get the pick? That would be best case scenario, right? But that's only mere conjecture for now, as it seems like Terminus, once again, it's not going to go to point immediately. They want to opt to go for this fight. They want to put pressure on these back lines, but they're getting a lot of damage. Oh my goodness, they're getting a lot of damage going into the fight, which is what I was going to say before Logi finds that first blood. 36% for Yoinkers already, and they're going to have to reconsider how mixalazeub are going to make their way forward. Because now Maeve has plenty of control over the side and Secret right here, if anything. And it's going to be really, really hard for mixalazeub to make their way in, but Terminus has to make it to point the best way that they can, but I don't think there was any way to do that.
Yeah. When that happens, when your Eevee gets sniped on Jaguar Falls off of the first blink that they do, you are in for a tough one. You're gonna have to figure out something else. That Terminus tried to make it in, but just couldn't after getting shot in the back by Logi, who's already set up in, I think, the best position possible for this map, even with this Eevee trying to get on top of him. But Eevee blinks out, doesn't really take the fight. 1560 at a moment's notice. How do you deal with this? Logi, when he's hitting every single shot, you just can't stop the man.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like they will even try to stop him. Etsu finds at least one of the kills, but Logi's the one finding the damage here, and I think that's the story to remember. Trying to see if he can shoot around the siphon, and it doesn't even matter. The minute it goes down, oh my goodness, I don't really have much to say about that one, except for just, I actually don't have anything to say.
He's being predicted with ease. Predicted with ease, Vaughn. That's all I have to say. However you say that in French, I'm sure Logi's DMing that to them right now. On the other side, just on top of this Eevee, owning it now, can't even touch the point. Snipers, they warp the game around them, especially when they hit everything like Logi's doing right now, Fawn.
I don't know what else to say. 1560 into the Terminus. You got yourselves an ended game victor. I haven't even seen him leave that spawn since he walked back in there. So 2-0 already. And once again, chat, this is what I was saying before, okay? It was this. Yes, we know snipers are bad, but it is Logi on the Kinessa. And if you had any more question about whether that was a good idea or a bad idea to lock in the sniper on Jaguar Falls, there's your proof. There's your evidence right there. The fact that this is why they felt comfortable enough to lock in Kinessa on Jaguar Falls, regardless of what the enemy team's composition was. And I think that's not only a testament to Yoinkers' skill as a team, but more so how strong their individual players are at themselves, even without the team being there. So they're gonna have to find something to shake anything up. You're making the Eevee by the Haven. You clearly know that there is a problem with their backliner. Maybe Terminus has to play up a little bit more, but it seems like they're already starting off in sort of the same location. Seems like they're trying to go around on the right side though, really playing by Sun here as Princess Pekka is getting a lot of damage dealt to him. It's going to be a little bit harder. Logi finds that last hit, but at least they find Etsu through time and space. Just a Hail Mary at this point to see if they can find anything for themselves. But of course, everyone's going to move out of the way of that one. Now Logi's in the spot that he wants to be in. Too bad he shouldn't have peeked around the corner if anything. And oh my goodness, there's another headshot waiting for the blink, seeing if they can do anything. But I don't think they'll be able to find much, as now she's trapped in the corner. Logi, another hit. That's going to be all she wrote for the Eevee, trapped in the corner. And here he comes, right around the corner once again to find another unsuspecting opponent. That's another kill for Logi, an 11 streak, plugging out the damage. I really don't know if there's anyone else to spectate here, Chris.
Yeah, I was literally about
amazing play.
When you threw it back to me, I was going to say my apologies to every other member of Yoinkers, because why watch anyone else with what Logi's been doing right now?
Oh my goodness.
Kinessa just, again, I'll say it now, I'll say it 1,000 times. Kinessa really warps the game. You have to play around the Kinessa, or a good Kinessa will just do this. Look at him, just staring up at that blink spot, healing himself for 375 on that shot, and playing so safe because of it. He doesn't have to put himself ever under any pressure.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like he's feeling pressure at all, honestly. The funniest part about that is seeing Logi like hitting all these shots and Etsu just waiting because he's just like, well,
not?
Logi can handle most of this, right? Exactly. He's like, well, Logi's handling most of this. I mean, I don't really have to go in right now. I would just end up dying. And Prosper shows that he's not one to be trifled with either on the Vivian. They don't ban it the second time around, and he finds himself a nice little triple kill to put in the back pocket. As you have a minute and 45 seconds remaining, but the car has already rolled right on through. It seems like they won't really even be able to stop this. Terminus is going to have to try and find some way to die on point, see if he can get the res, see if they can get something started from there. But other than that, it doesn't seem like they really have any sort of aggression here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they really break out into this. They actually use the barrage, and they finally take down Logi, but Petra always has to read Jen on point. Reanimate comes in. That makes it work, but Yoinkers, doesn't matter. They just had enough damage. All the resources have to get spent miles away in the back line. They can't help the cart, so they just end up rolling it straight through.
I think what's the most important part there is that even though they did get that kill on Logi, they got him in the back line. They lost two. They actually didn't lose 2 members before that. They actually managed to find 2 members on the team of mixalazeub. However, if you would have looked where Prosper was during that time, he was waiting right outside of spawn with Vivian. So sure, they got rid of Logi, but as soon as Genos peeked around that corner, Prosper's like, hello there. And he just had to move back into spawn like almost instantly. There was nothing else that they could have done in that scenario. I just feel like they were forced back, just huddled behind each other. And it's great that you have Terminus to try and deal with that backline. That's wonderful. But I don't think that's exactly what you would have wanted against a Kinessa. There wasn't enough dive there. Putting all that pressure on Eevee was great if you felt like they could have done it, but at the same time, that's a lot to have to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, Yoinkers gave mixalazeub a lot to worry about across the board. I mean, even with Logi doing that much damage, Prosper was basically only 1,400 behind. Barely taking any damage either. Logi only took 2,700 damage, more than his Corvus did. That's kind of absurd. While outputting as much as they were there, mixalazeub just really struggling to make it work into this composition on Jaguar Falls. Out healing, but that's what you expect when you take so much more damage on the side. And we'll get those KDAs up. I know there's a little thing where one of Victor's items wasn't showing, but it looks like it was cauterized. I think, surprise, surprise, to more or less no one about that pickup. But another dominant game from Yoinkers, really showing their improvement after picking up Prosper, but that definitely wasn't the Prosper show, even with him going 8-0.
Yeah, and it definitely was the Logi show is what I would say, but I feel like we've said that enough, if anything. Etsu 1-2-11, managed to find those last hits. He had Haven, but to be honest with you, Krez, I don't even see a reason to have Haven 2. It felt like no one could get the damage they needed to even into those targets, only having died twice, everyone else having either died once or none at all.
Sad zone for Etsu.
Great look. Exactly, big sad zone for Etsu, if anything. I mean, this is dominant so far on the side of Yoinkers. mixalazeub really have to find something. I mean, I'm not too sure what it is. Everything's happening so quickly that I feel like it's hard to try and even give like an in-depth analysis. But I mean, we have to do what we can. We have to do what we can, honestly.
Yeah, we'll do our best for that. And
listen,
all I really ask for mixalazeub is they got to be happy that there's no more small flat maps left. Right.
Yes.
Unless they take us to Ice Mines, which I'm going to double check and make sure was banned. Ice Mines was banned. As long as we don't go to a banned map or an already played map, maybe they'll be looking good map-wise. You know, they could take us somewhere else. I do have the next map in front of me, and it looks like it will be Stone Keep is where they wanted to send us. So I will get all that ready. But Stone, what to you, Fawn, you think makes them want to go here? It's another good sniper map, but maybe they're going to target that Kinessa from them, but they also, I feel like they have to target the Vivian too. They're both such huge problems, but then you give up both and this Ruckus will get through. And we've seen, I just punched my desk, I'm sorry, we've seen what this Ruckus has done in other matches. They're gonna have to figure out how to deal with it, or figure out how to deal with this Viv and Kinessa.
I'm not too sure, honestly. I mean, they're probably going to go to Stone, like you said before, because of the fact that they have to watch what they ban first and foremost, right? I mean, they have to worry about the Ruckus. They've shown that they want to worry about the Ruckus. They've shown they wanted to worry, about the ROM as well. And I think that's something to keep in mind, but less so than the fact that they could, like in a blaster, doesn't necessarily have to be BK, could be the Dredge. We've seen that before. They could try and go the Hurl Dredge, if at all possible. We've seen it, dual snipers one-on-one. That healing plays a huge role into it. If you feel like you can sort of do that with Logi, then by all means. But at the same time, I'm not really too sure what they will pick Stone Keep for, other than just comfortability's sake. I mean, they could just pick that because it's a map they might know how to play on. And hopefully for their sake, I would hope that they actually can play on it efficiently enough. But I'm really not too sure. I think only the draft will be able to tell more than anything how they would end up picking that on.
And I'm sorry, Fun, but I'm laughing at chat because someone said they're happy there's no more Jag because Kanessa is just so OP there. Which I guess true when it's Logi
yep.
literally just scoping into Sun and hitting everything somehow, but we'll see if they have an answer to these snipers, these strong hit scan backlines as we head into the picks and bans for Stone Keep on game number 3 of this set. mixalazeub, they want first pick because, like I said, after the coin flip, it is the loser's pick section of this. We'll see how they want to start this, if it's going to be just Ruckus taken out again. But, okay, she's there. Ban column. They've done it. They've made the decision. Stamp it down. Get rid of that Vivian. We don't want to see it on our side. And Yoinkers, maybe I don't know if they'll ban themselves out if they don't want to see mixalazeub pick it up, but Ruckus, banned on second pick. And you know what that says to me, Fawn? Why are teams banning it on first pick? Right? Why are you banning it on first pick if Yoinkers are like, oh man, second pick, we have to ban this Ruckus? I feel like you can just target ban a little bit harder on first pick unless you really don't want that many good characters to get through.
I agree with that. I agree with that entirely. And I mean, getting rid of the Ruckus as well would, I feel like personally that is a little bit of a hint as to what Yoinkers may not actually want to deal with. So why not run the double flank,
Good
right?
Like
why not? Exactly right. That's the point. Is that you get rid of Ruckus, you get rid of Atlas. Okay, last time they got rid of Ruckus and Rom. So the indicator there to me is the fact that they would not want to deal with dive compositions. It puts a lot of pressure onto their backlines. They got rid of Vivian, perfect. If they lock in Kanessa once again, even better. You can go that double flank route. We've seen that be brought out before as well. Having that double flank route to put more pressure onto the backline, run that triple DPS, have at least one backliner that you know can sustain for themselves, and you'll be Gucci. You're fine. There's nothing really you have to worry about that. So, but it seems like the Ashe, Genos, Sha, Lin, if anything, on the side of mixalazeub. What do you feel like Yoinkers will respond here with, Chris?
I mean, I do like what Mix have. I feel like they have a kind of hybrid composition where the Sha can get aggressive, can get passive, good burst damage. Ashe can also get aggro too. Maybe you want an off tank that can CC that Ashe potentially. That what they are going to pick up here probably is their healer. And I would say if they want a second tank, this is where you pick it up because you want to be able to flex that DPS. But they grab their healer. Again, you don't want to leave that for your last pick no matter what on Yoinkers. And they pick up, hey, guess what? Kanessa again. But Mix have a slightly better draft to deal with it now, right? They have this Ashe who can go bully her out. Slugshot, actually pretty effective, I think, at trading damage into those backlines. They're probably going to see Fortress or Battering Ram realistically because EU doesn't really seem to like Slug, but you can trade into that, bully her out, force that teleport, and then maybe put her into a place where that Shaolin can take her down.
And I think that's what the entire purpose of the Ashe is, correct? Like to be able to try and, yep, there it is. There's the ROM. And they're probably going to lock in, yep, they're going to lock in another flank as well. I mean, you have the Eevee. You have to make these backliners as uncomfortable as possible. You can't give them a lot of space. And I feel like that's where they've been falling flat a lot of the time. They haven't been forcing a lot of these engagements on these backlines. They've just been taking it at face value, and the frontliner goes down, and then they're like, well, crap, what else do we do from here? And they just end up losing the fight overall.
Yeah, and Yoinkers right now, interestingly enough, they basically have the same comp. They basically haven't changed anything. The Yoinkers, same exact composition, sans Vivian plus Victor. Now they have effectively the same thing, if not even maybe better on Stone. Honestly, Victor, great pick for this map, unlike what I would say on Jaguar Falls. But Mix bring a completely different roster minus the Genos and the Eevee to the table here. I think that Ashe and the ROM can bully into this Kanessa, just a matter of how they play around them, how they protect them. But mixalazeub, a lot of options to take on this mid, but with this double off tank, they really have to make room fast because Good Lad's just going to be standing on point, vibing, having a good time, and probably not giving up as much pressure as mixalazeub want him to.
Yeah, and I think that's what's the most important thing here is that they've drafted something that gives them a lot of pressure, and now, once again, mixalazeub and Yoinkers both know what the game plan is here for this composition. It comes down to how they will execute this game plan on the side of mixalazeub that will determine whether they can actually put some pressure on the Yoinkers. Whose draft do you like more here, Chris?
It's so hard to side against the Yoinkers one, right? After what we just saw. I mean, it literally, this same draft effectively just won 2 games in a row, 4-0, but not even like a close 4-0, like a one-sided 4-0. So I find it hard to side against Yoinkers as we slide into game. But they have something that can make it happen. I mean, this EV ROM Ashe can get super aggressive and make that space onto Logi, but we've seen Logi handle pressure really well, just killing EV over and over again. So we'll see how they can adapt to it on this map. A little bit wider, so more space to be taken to actually get onto that Kinessa. So maybe the dive won't be as effective, but it depends on what sides of the map Yoinkers try to control.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what we'll have to look for here. And of course, everyone that's watching, and us too, of course, will be able to pay attention to see if that's how they're going to play their draft. But of course, Jonas is going to early dismount, see if he can get any other dismounts on the individuals that might be walking through Banana. But it doesn't look like anyone is going to be. They're mostly playing by Church as Victor and Shaolin engage by the keep. Most of the percentage is still going towards the side of Yoinkers. Here is Ashe all the way in the back line, putting on the pressure. Can they do it? They can. They take care of Logi. He goes down. The first blood in this game, 12% for mixalazeub is now available to them as the percentage is steadily rising. Nothing has really been lost or gained on either side, except for Princess Pekka, who seems to go down a little bit earlier than they may have anticipated. They have to concede this point, as 45% is all that is available to them. They're going to shoulder bash their way into keep, and that's going to be all she wrote for, I believe, this engagement.
Interestingly, no map control really taken by Yoinkers. I think they were afraid of getting bursted down, so they don't take it, but they managed to win the retake. Oh, coming back in. Withdraw just barely not predicted, and the arrow doesn't hit, but the Void Grip makes him whiff, and Etsu lives to fight another day.
And here we go. Etsu finds himself another unsuspecting opponent as he manages to take care of Davazy, and I don't know how to say that name, so I'm not going to say it. He takes care of Genos. That's all. Kiesel, okay. So that's all it is that we're going to need to know for the most part, is that Genos is now out of the mix. They don't have their healer for a couple more seconds. So we're going to toss those daggers out into Fireplace, if anything. Genos playing in the back line. See if he can do anything. They actually find one. Seismic crash into the back as well. And Good Lads all the way at the back, putting pressure onto the Genos. He found one, found the other. Now the wall's going to go up, and he's going to make his way back to point.
He doesn't even need to make his way back to point. Just stay in the way. Keep making that space. Good Lad doing a great job of stopping them. I don't think they have the touch. Maybe. Yeah, Rom knows that he turns back around, and the DPS are all low on their side with Logi to follow up. There's no way they're getting a look at this crack shot. He's playing, and he finds himself through that. Are you kidding me, Logi? This is just unstoppable.
This is not what you would like to see if you were on mixalazeub's team. Well, to be fair, they're not really seeing anything, right? They're peeking and then getting tapped like that, for example. Thank you, Logi, for actually going along with my commentary there for a second. 2 minutes and 5 seconds remaining, if anything. And as they're playing against the clock right now, mixalazeub have to find some sort of defense that's actually going to help them. Cataclysm goes out. The Earthen Guard is going to keep themselves alive. Nara's not going to go down here. As Ashe all the way in the back line, found her positioning on top of Logi. He's going to be able to make it out. Use that teleporter. He's going to get healed thanks to the Corvus. His space is going to be huge as everyone has to retreat. They were so focused on the Ashe in the back line that the Genos was able to actually pop off right there.
Yeah, great ult by Kiesel, cleaning up everybody that was trying to peel for Logi basically and slow down the push from inside. Good team setup there right now, but look at this. Yoinkers, mixalazeub, they're all sitting on the inside of the church, and Yoinkers, they just take keep. They're like, yeah, it's open, sure. Prosper hears the shot, withdraw ending, knows he's close by, so we'll be a little bit more aware. He's Noik there, but thinks he went back. Noik actually trying to engage, though, but Prosper can just play a little safe. Almost dies through that, but the Entropic Breach will set up for another kill down in the church.
So already with a nice double as Princess Pekka runs her way into the keep. Eating a lot of damage from Maeve, if anything, really surrounded by everyone, is going to get taken out of the fight. As now is going to be the next one that goes down. Everyone else has now made their way back to cart, and now are going to be in a good enough position to hold. As now they are still mounted up in the little corner right there. They don't know where he is. Blinks in, blinks out, just tries to juke a little bit, but not really going to be able to find much here. They're not going to be able to get much of that kill. They found the damage, but will they be able to find much more as Princess Pekka runs all the way into the back line, play a little bit more aggressive, misses the Ice Storm, but Prosper is low. They got the damage. Can they find the cemented kill, though? And they aren't. Princess Pekka is going to go down, but Davazy and BK are going to be able to hold up in high ground and find the damage where they need to. They take out Etsu. That's going to be a good look for them. Score is still tied at 1-0. You have Ashe, you have her holding her ground against as many people as she can. They actually force out the assert dominance here on already low targets. They have to hold their ground. That's showing how much pressure Yoinkers already has despite all of this. And that's going to be their first point this set, actually.
I mean, yeah, they get the first point this set, but at what cost, right? They have to spend
exactly.
the assert dominance defensively in and I would say a rough position. Didn't even get the high ground cancel, right? The head smash that Ash would be able to use normally, unable to be found by them. I think looking at the damage charts, Shaw's doing decently. Inara, by the way, at the top, but I think that's just from a lot of ROM farming that Good Lad's been doing here on this Inara. Saw that aggression in the backline and a lot of damage being soaked up there and healed up in kind by that Corvus. Even with more damage being dealt, this Corvus is still managing to put out more healing. Normally you'd see that the losing team, or at least the team struggling a little bit more, being a little bit closer when it comes to that, but still great, I think, healing output by Frieza.
Exactly, and that's what's important here. Let's see how they're going to readjust their plan for this go around. They definitely have to play a little bit more back inside of Yoinkers, but they're finding the shots in the Corvus. Rom's going to run in, or at least tries to close the distraction well enough. Midnight is how they're going to start things off for this team fight, as Etsu is going to see if he can find some damage onto BK. Not going to find those daggers, but he is forcing people back. Another through time and space is going to find two members. They find their healer. They find Logi, and Kate Kiesel on the Genos, ripping the fabric of reality, is going to find a pick. Cataclysm in the back line. They're going to take care of Good Lad as well. 51% for mixalazeub. That's a great look for them as they submit themselves on the point more and more.
I mean, if you get a double through time and space every round, you'll win every round, but not guaranteed. Look at this. Etsu, though, makes it and actually triggers the overtime and trades for the Genos. Brutal for them. They might actually lose P.E.K.K.A here, too, but the soul armor fragments are left. No one's even on the objective either, and they get Tropic Breach for even more backup.
Davizzy and BK are going to find a double kill. Davizzy, not the double, but the single. Will he be able to force Sonar back? He is, and the healing is going to be enough to keep him alive. That's plenty of sustainability on the side of Ash, and shout out to the Genos, of course, for giving him a little bit of that extra damage as well. Logi goes down, running right on through him. Rom is going to make sure that he stays right next to Fireplace, along with the Shaolin, seeing if they can get anything going for themselves. And now Nauk is going to have to back off Princess P.E.K.K.A. He's going to try and move in once again, manages to get the Rom run directly onto Inara, but they're going to try and provide a body block. I believe they tried to use the assert dominance, if anything, but she's going to get taken out midair.
Yeah, definitely tough one there. Look at that. The Shaolin, I think, actually outputting some solid damage from main, but not really a good enough angle, and this Midnight will let Yoinkers keep this aggressive defense up. P.E.K.K.A so low, and Etsu finds that pick at the end. And we'll be able to keep trading into this Eevee with Good Lad finding his biggest counter, I think, in the Shaolin.
We're going to have to see how they adjust themselves once again. Now they're missing a couple of members. So now Eevee has to play a little bit more back, if anything. They're the ones being aggressed upon. mixalazeub have to make their way back some cart as Yoinkers is now in their spawn. Rom tries to run out of the way. But that's not going to be enough for him. He gets dealt with almost instantly by Logi, Maeve, and both the Eevee are engaged in a battle on the sides here. Etsu's trying to see if he can find that damage. Finds a couple of daggers into the ROM, but not going to be able to find quite clearly enough. They take care of one of them. Etsu is going to go down here. Princess P.E.K.K.A is going to follow suit soon right after that, and that's a one-for-one trade. Now they have to find their way back to cart if they can. There's only a minute remaining left on clock, but that grenade is going to take out one of them. They're going to find the other in the terms of Eevee. Davizzy just going to have to try and find some way back to reach his team. Or the cart.
You know what's been interesting? I like watching this ROM interaction with Kinessa because what makes ROM good, right? It's the 50% damage reduction on the dash, but he doesn't have it, basically, right? He has 50% damage, and then there's 30% damage boost on the Kinessa. That DR is basically Haven 3 at that point, and that's not enough to keep him alive, so he thinks his run will help him, and it's just not. These members of mixalazeub getting collapsed on in Banana by Good Lad. He's just all over them.
We'll have to see how they're going to try and fight this one out as they take care of Eevee, and now soon after that, now Inara even wants a piece. Logi with a nice little double as well. Flick shots turns around for the kinetic burst. Prosper is going to find plenty of damage, but Inara is going to be the one that gets that singular hit. It's going to put Ash in the dirt. P.E.K.K.A goes away next, waiting for the ice block to expire. They're not going to be able to find the kill, except for Good Lad, who's in a better off position than a couple of his other teammates. That's a 2-2 tie already for both of these teams.
Mix is probably feeling very lucky that that ultimate that Davizzy tried to use before did not end up landing. I think not having the auto cancel by that kind of saved them, and it gives them an ultimate to use here as we move further into this. I want to ask these victors why they're backing off of Predator 5, because I still feel like the self-sustain is so important. I don't know if that 50 health you're gaining from Flak Jacket is equal to the 50 health you're gaining from each burst that you're effectively losing with that 5% less lifesteal. It's a little less than that, but it still, I think, adds up over time. Look at the loadout of, let's see Princess P.E.K.K.A. Rom loadouts all kind of change, but P.E.K.K.A, I think, leaning a little more into that damage reduction. Some people have a little bit more in Shattered Essence. P.E.K.K.A wants DR so that the Cauterize is a little bit less, I think, counter.
Here we go. They're going to try and contest and keep this time around as Rom runs right on through. He already ate a lot of damage from Shaolin. Now they're all the way in the back line. The Cataclysm is going to be utilized, but it's too narrow of a space for it to go through. As now finds 2, it's going to be a good look for him. As now he's going to be able to catch out the Corvus as well. That's going to be a 3 streak, if anything. Now Nara is at a bad spot. No DR. Can they catch her out? It seems like they might be able to, but they may not be able to do it in the timely manner. Toss out the grenade. It bounces back. And the damage he ate from the grenade, which just so happens to be enough for Nauk to put him in the dirt.
Yeah, great kill by Etsu there on the follow-up, and no one's capping the point. Good lad, finally heading to the objective for the first % of the game. Or this round, excuse me. For Yoinkers right now, P.E.K.K.A trying to make a lot of space. They're playing this kind of chaos style, and I think it's working. Another ultimate kill by Kiesel onto Logi. They're just heat-seeking, and Logi can't get out of the way.
21% already for mixalazeub, as now Eevee has found her way into the mix of things. And Nahar is right in front of him with the Earthen Guard. It's going to be hard for them to see if they can find any sort of value whatsoever from all of this. Etsu is going to come right on in and make sure he finds that kill. Pills for his teammate, and Prosper is going to find his way to point.
And aggression right now from Good Lad. I think he has the ultimate they're relying on here with the Seismic Crash, but only using it for 1 kill. Actually finds the angle there, but look, no one's even close enough to make it happen, and now just pops the Heat Haze. But at the very least, for Yoinkers, they forced it way in the backline. It's not going to be a factor in this coming fight.
Speaking of backline, Good Lad seems to have made his way all the way around to the backup, with the Earthen Guard being a factor. Etsu wants a piece as well as he moves in to reinforce his teammate. Will they find one? They do. They don't. They do find the other, though, as an even trade, 1 for 1. Now, we're talking about a 4v4 as Princess P.E.K.K.A has to find her way into a favorable situation, as she is the one being looked at mostly from Church. The Void Grip goes through directly onto Nara. They're not going to find much except for Princess P.E.K.K.A, as Yoinkers is now going to try and find a better opportunity to cement their lead. If they take care of Davizzy here, this might be the start of some things.
I like this prioritization by Yoinkers right there. They could have had a chance to re-heal touch overtime and keep it going from Mix, but because Yoinkers just knew that overtime was triggered, they just got aggressive instead. They just walked in and got those frags. They can't really follow up with that right now. Look at this. Yoinkers really frick on the gas pedal. They're running them down with this Midnight.
Midnight is how they start things off. But how will things end? Grenade gets tossed out. Sure, they found Davizzy, but who else will they find as the rest of them are in spawn? They're actually trapped all the way back here. Beautiful zone on the side of Yoinkers. Not going to allow them to really move up like that, if anything. That's going to be a good look for them. Moves all the way up and in. Princess P.E.K.K.A is there. They're going to have to try and find their way to move out. With Davizzy being here as well to try and provide reinforcements for his teammate.
Good lad is.
Not going to really be able to find anything through time and space. He's going to go wide this time. Not this time
The
around.
one I catch.
The one you catch.
The one I jump to the POV of is the one that doesn't connect spawn. That is my luck.
Unfortunate. I can't say they're as lucky as I can't imagine that you'd be as lucky as these guys are right here by being able to catch out this ROM. Cataclysm goes wide once again. Not going to find that hit. Princess P.E.K.K.A has to try and find some way out, but they're running all through everybody just to heal themselves back up. There's not really any way they can get out of this scenario, as Davizzy is going to get hit with a seismic crash. He's going to get put in the dirt.
Look at that rapid shot. Kills Friezo in the back. Barrage trying to find him, but he does. You're just spam clicking on Prosper. Barrage, by the way, can target people in stealth, so that won't save him there. Good lad being lifted, but no one shoots him during the grip. That was the best time to go for him, because now he can disengage. Get re-healed once Friezo is back. Or even, actually, no pressure at all on him. He'll just get passive heal at this point.
60 seconds available on the clock. They have plenty of time to be able to see if they can fight really anything. As Davizzy is here, they use the Assert Dominance all the way into the back. Now finds 2. Will he find the 3rd? The Void Grip might help him out with that one, as he's going to find the shot.
The nerves!
Right? He's going to find the shot, right? The nerves! The nerves are too much. Davizzy is going to find that kill on a Prosper Logic. Helps his teammate out just a little bit. 30 seconds is what's going to be on the clock here as Yoinkers see if they can sort of cement their lead, if anything. That's what's going to be important here, is can they cement their lead? It seems like right now they're going to try their best, if anything, just hold on to this line of sight that they have. Now finds that last hit onto Etsu, and that forces up the high ground, and that puts a damper in Yoinkers' defense. I should say offense, excuse me.
Yeah, no, the Yoinkers offense could make it here right now with Seismic Crash being spent on the card. Stuns too. Good lad, last second. Touches and gets the OT and backs off. That's smart. You don't need to stay on it. Just trigger that OT over and over if you can, and they get their first pick.
They actually get a second pick, follows suit soon after that, and Anara makes it out alive. Will they be able to take care of Rom here? As Davizzi has to find a way out. Cataclysm goes through. They find the stun, but they won't find very many members of the team waiting with open arms. Yoinkers are going to be the ones that find those last picks. Double kill for Logi already, as now the Shaolin is trying to go invisible here. Tropic Breach directly on point. Now he's just standing right outside of it, invis, but soon as they see him, they light him up. Yoinkers with a very swift 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, slowed down a little bit by mixalazeub, I think, adapting in a solid way throughout that map. I would say I think they performed better on Stonekeep than the other maps. I mean, it's very hard not to, considering how maps 1 and 2 went. But Mix, look, I liked their draft. I think the aggression worked for them. I think setting up for those time and spaces was fantastic. Having those double kills to hold the defense and get the mid, great to get those points. But again, it's not something you can rely on. You can't say, yeah, I'll double kill their healer and their Kinessa every single time we need to win a fight.
Right.
You can't rely on that. And because they can't rely on that, it's just not something that helps them push to a win. Yoinkers, I think, just looked like the better team today. And once I get you shared on this screen, we can see if the stats share that information.
Yeah, and I think that's what's important to note here is the fact that we went into this talking about how Yoinkers had a sort of new draft under their belt. They had a way to make sure that they were still firing on all cylinders as a team, despite the new blood that may have been specifically on their team. But at the same time, mixalazeub had something to prove here today, and I feel like they weren't able to quite get that across. The last map was definitely the one to prove that on with Stonekeep. Because of the draft I felt like they had, it was so good, and we see that reflected in the damage numbers. They weren't that far behind. They were making plays here and there. It did go down to a 4-2, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really have that same impact that they may have wanted it to have.
In my eyes, I think Nauk actually really performed. Yes, Prospero damaged him, but don't forget that was also Prosper fighting a Rom and an Ashe, the Rom that took 200,000 damage and Ashe that took 130. So I think Nauk with a fantastic performance on the Shaolin, kind of saying, hey, why am I not really being picked that much in EU? I can definitely perform when I get a decent composition for it. KDAs, I think, are going to be more important, but you can see the damage super stacked on the side of Yoinkers, with Good Lad actually second damaging above Logi and Etsu. Logi, I think, under a lot of pressure. We can hop over to the KDAs and see if that says anything differently. And oh my, Princess Pekka, 2 and 14. I mean, they were all over the backline, right? They were just making a lot of room. But against a 17 and 4, 122,000 damage performance by Good Lad, it's hard to keep up with that as a tank. Both of them gave up their lives to get aggressive, and it helped Nauk out a bit, but it just hurt them, I think, in the long run.
Yeah, and I think they definitely knew what they wanted to play to with their draft, but may not have been as effective as they were hoping, like I had said previously when we were on the previous stats page. And this is reflected very well in the fact that they are both 2 and 14 and 4 and 14 respectively. Clearly having that aggression, they know what they wanted to do. They kept diving into the back line. They just wanted to draw eyes towards them, but even still, they weren't able to find the effectiveness that they wanted from that draft, because that draft was huge. I really think that could have changed everything. I felt like that really had the stronger play there. I thought that was the better draft for Stonekeep.
Yeah, I agree. I think it could have worked, but Yoinkers is clearly playing something comfortable with them, and that will push them even further up the standings, which I do have right here to show you. Clown Fiesta, 4 and 1. Again, we keep saying it, but they are effectively no maps dropped at the moment. The one loss they have was a sleepy Prosper, who has clearly woken up here to play for Yoinkers, who are also sharing that 4 and 1 position with them. Interstellar, Chromaspace, and Celestial all super close together. A little bit further down the standings, I think, kind of brawling it out there on the 2 and 3s. And then mixalazeub there at 1 and 4, a team that started stronger than this. I think we're 1 and 1, and then Uber Spady had to head out to make room for Stop Banning BK to come back into the roster after performing well in the qualifiers for them, and then they just really haven't looked the same since.
Right. And I mean, Clown Fiesta is still at the top of the standings with everyone else following suit. Clown Fiesta, a very hard team to beat as well. I mean, we've seen them play previous weeks, just seeing how great they were as a unit together, as a team. And even still, we saw that with Yoinkers too today. The fact that they were able to have that new person on their team, new roster, a little bit of a new roster change. And then here we are just still doing the same thing, still feeling like an effective team. But that's all that we have for right now for the European bracket. We're going to head right to a quick break, and when we come back, we're in Brazil.